let's do this together then.
That's brilliant. That's fantastic.
Okay, great. Let's do that. Do you want to put on your
I can see if my video will work. Yeah.
Yes, there you are. That's lovely. Then I can see you and you can see. Okay, great. Well, we've seen each other before, right? This week. I'll just give it a minute. I'm not sure whether anybody else wants to come in and then they just missed the start, but let's just give it a minute and take it from there and see if anyone comes in. And if not, I'm really happy to work this hour with you.
Brilliant.
Yes. So I am in Amsterdam at the moment. And this is a hardcore lab. That's what it's called. It's on an old ship wharf. So this used to be the wharf, and now there are offices in there.
All right.
So I'm well, the boats were up here. It's like a ceiling.
My eldest daughter is in Amsterdam. She's studying.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And what is she doing?
She's doing a master's degree in economics, and it's to do with politics and economics. I'm not quite sure of the whole. She's learned, her boyfriend is Dutch. She's now able to speak Dutch, and she wants to do a PhD. She's already got to a master's degree, but because she couldn't get onto a Dutch program without having PhD program without having a Dutch master's very easily, so she decided to do another master's.
Oh wow! And then in English or in Dutch?
I'm absolutely not sure. I know she's got loads of maths that she's doing at the moment.
Okay. Oh wow.
But since she started, she hasn't been in communication because she's just been up to here work-wise.
Yes. Yeah, I think I sometimes I teach a lot at university, and sometimes I just see people coming in and I just want to hug them because I see they're kind of loaded, not really knowing where they are anymore. But well, I mean, it's part of that period in your life, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's going to be us.
Brilliant. Okay.
So let's start.
Indeed.
So yeah, so we met. I will adjust my program a little bit, and let's make it really beneficial for you for this coming week, right?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yes. Okay. So do you have a pen and paper with you?
Yes, I do.
Okay, great. So again, I'm really happy that you made it here. I had a lot of fun preparing this, so I'm really happy that I can try it out with you.
Yeah, sure.
So well, we met before, but a little bit about my background. Well, as you know, I train people in public speaking, and I do that. Well, I have my own little company. It's called As We Speak, and I really love that name because it means, you know, in the moment, the present time. So in my work, I work a lot with being present and how you do that while speaking. That's just one part of the work I do. And the other thing is that my background is in theater. And that is where I really learned the power of stories, really, and how stories have always been so important for people in all these years that we exist here on this world. So really inspired by those two things, and I take them with me in this hour. But before we dive in, I would like to share a little story, because before I went to theater school, I was born and raised in a in a Christian family. And I'm sure you will have your own vision of what that would look like. But in my case, it was a bit like a hippie Christian family. So my parents were in a band, and we always went to these music festivals, and there was a lot of philosophy going on and conversations. So I really enjoyed it because it was kind of playful. So for me, it was a very natural choice to choose theater, because I thought, well, there I can play and then own, and then get a college degree just for playing. So I think in the week before I went there, my dad had this conversation with me where he told me, there's this one thing that I didn't teach you because it doesn't belong to my values, but I don't want you to feel unfree where you go there. So let's just practice together. And that was the day where my dad learned me how to swear and curse. So, well, I think you can imagine this was such a surreal experience. But really what he did at that moment, he kind of give me permission to explore, right? And to explore outside of the world that I knew. And it brought me so much, that freedom to explore, being in the theater school. So really, I hope in this hour that we can explore together. So it's not really about doing it good or making it perfect, but it's just to try something out in a different way that's maybe unfamiliar. Yes, so there's so much I think we can learn from theater. And the first thing is that in theater, there's always the actor, and then you have the director. And then the director is present from the position of the audience member. And I think you will recognize that there's such a difference being the speaker and how you experience that, or being this audience member, and how it's the same moment, but the experience is so different. So to start with, I'm really curious, what do you appreciate as an audience member when it comes to public speaking and when it comes to people sharing their work and their story?
I suppose that there are people who speak and they are really boring in the way they communicate. And I want to hear from the person's, I want to be able to feel their hearts, so that I can hear that they are committed to what they are involved with, that it brings up a feeling of kind of joie de vivre. Those are the things that on the audience side, I want to be able to feel connected to the person who is speaking, and that the interest is taken by what they're having to say.
Wow. Yes. So you want people to be, if I understand you correctly, you want people to be connected with what it is they're talking about, and that you feel it's of personal matter to them?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, great. So how should we prepare for speaking in that way?
Yes, so I suppose in my work, I have to present things quite a bit, but it's quite different from doing this. This is something that what I've been doing is writing a book about embodied leadership. And so I'm doing it in a different way than I normally do, because I normally write in an academic format. And what I want to be is more accessible, because my kind of professional work is in public health. I'm a consultant in public health. So and there's the expectations of you is that you're going to provide evidence that's well researched and makes sense. And so what I'm now doing is something that is a little bit more something I am really passionate about, but it's not quite in my normal day-to-day reference. It's about outside that. It's using my creativity more, and the how I love to write and create poetry, and bringing all of that into something different. So that's kind of what I'm trying to do.
I think that is absolutely wonderful, and I really do believe that you know, this new way of speaking and exploring that can also become a part of that academic world. Still, you know, you need to, you know, come up with the research, with the results, and with good um, um, well, being analytic and stuff like that. But I do believe that there is some form of being there. It must be able to merge them somewhere. So let's see how we can do that. So what happens when, you know, when we prepare a presentation, for example, in the academic world, what we want to do is we want to make sure that we're complete and that we are precise and specific, and that, you know, everything is in there, or as much as we can, right? So maybe we did this research of 4 years, and then we get this 20 minutes, and we try to convey everything from this 4 years into these 20 minutes, right? And what happens is that, you know, we have to make sure that everything is in there. So it's quite a task. So the speaker thinks I'm going to tell you everything I know, and I'm going to show you that this research, you know, it's worthy, and I'm knowledgeable. And then from the audience perspective, so let's go back to that side. The unfortunate thing is that they will forget the larger part of the facts and the figures, because when we really want to remember something, we either way have to repeat it, you know, like how we learn or it has to resonate with something we already know, or something we're already familiar with. So what happens with these academic speeches is that people will forget the larger part. They will only remember what's relevant for them or what resonates with them. And that actually is okay, and it's fine. It's just that we've been really working very hard. But what the audience needs is not so much to have all the information or all the facts and figures, because they can find it in the research, you know, they can read it if they really want to, but they want to understand the meaning of all those facts and figures. They want to understand, you know, how they can use it, or how it will benefit, or who will benefit from it, or how we can implement it, or stuff like that. They all have their specific, you know, questions and things. But what they want is they want to be moved. So they don't want to be the same before they attended this presentation and then at the end. So they want to be moved in a way. And that's a difference, being informed or being moved. And what, it is not the same, but what is it to be moved? It can be, for example, being convinced, or being inspired, or maybe being activated to do something in a different way, or maybe being warned that we should really stop doing something in a certain way. So if we want to move people, we have to make sure that we take them along our own movement. So we're bringing our own movement in a way. And this movement that's being inspired or being convinced, that's much more easy to remember for your audience. So I want to do a little exercise, and it's up to you what you want to choose from. But we are negotiating the new normal, right?
Yeah.
So when it comes to the work you do, what is it that you would like to, where would you like to see change? So think about it for a bit. It might be in your work, it might be in the world, but think about the change or the new normal. Where do you envision it to be different from what it is now? And just take a minute to think about it. And you can, to prepare that, you can write down 3 things. So the first thing, what is the situation now? The second thing is, what is the situation when you envision the new normal or the future? And then the third is, what is the value underneath that? So take a minute and let me know when you're ready.
I know what it is already, because
Okay.
I've been thinking about this.
Share it.
Okay, so how I see it now is we're in a very challenging time where it feels to me as if some of the leadership of various Western countries, particularly America and the UK, there is a load of dissent going on, and hatred is promulgated. And I find that really challenging. And so what I envisage for the future is more of a place where people care for each other, that communities connect and are compassionate. So what I envisage in terms of is caring, connected communities. And the value underneath that is one where we work together to change things for the better.
And does this also relate to the specific work you do? So
yeah, I suppose yes, in terms of the work I do, because currently I'm in the middle of this of the COVID pandemic, and so the work that I'm involved with is ensuring that people have the right information, that we communicate messages with them that they can understand, so that they will change the behavior and be thoughtful about what they do, and it means that other people are safe or they are not safe, as it were. And I find in the UK at the moment, with the newest, making 3 tiers with medium, high and extra high alerts, people are not understanding that. They are not knowing what they should be doing. So in terms of how do I make sure that the work that I do is understood in a way that people are actually going to care for each other, that's really, really important, so that the vulnerable are looked after and kept safe, and but other people can go about their lives.
Wow. Okay, so great. So what we're going to do now is we're going to work on the story that belongs to this value and this movement that you would like to see. I shall first tell you my core value in the work and the movement I would like to see. So I can take you along on, on my story. So in the end, we have 2 stories. So, so what actually I spoke about it. So what I see in the work that I do is that people, when they talk about the work they do, I have a feeling that when they are there, it feels like they are being judged or being good or intellectual or being, you know, right or wrong or something like that. And what I hope in the future, so when I want to negotiate the new normal, or what I hope to influence into the future, is that the moment that we are presenting, or the moment that we are sharing the work we do, or the insight that we have, or the research results, or we can understand that we are there at that position because we have to share something and we have to give something. And it's not that people are there to judge us. And I really would like to change that whole perspective of what it means to be public speaking, right? It's a moment of sharing, it's a moment of giving. And I think the core, the value underneath that is that I really do believe that everybody is worthy and everybody has something to give to that will help another person grow. So that's the belief that sort of underlining that. Now let's move to the second part, because as I said, we're going to co-create storytelling. Because of course we can just share this, right? We can share the vision that we have and why we feel it's important. And that is actually perfect and really good to do, because I think it will help people understand why we come up with the facts and figures, or it will help them to understand in which frame we should listen to all those facts and figures. Something that's also very helpful is to use a story, because a story is always designed for people to understand the meaning or the value behind the story. So a story is not there just to make a presentation look a bit nicer or just to have something nice in a presentation. No, stories are carefully picked because the meaning equals the meaning of the work we do. And the story is just there to help us conveying that meaning. And what a story does is that it's more easy to remember. It's easy to digest. A lot of time it sticks. It helps us to connect. And so there's a lot of benefit when it comes to storytelling. And there is a lot of ways in which we can do that. And if you would like to understand or would like to learn some more on storytelling, you can look at the work of Joseph Campbell. He's a very well, maybe you know him, he's a very well-known, he's like the godfather of storytelling, and dedicated his life to see what stories are about and to understand how they were built and what makes a good story. So, and there are a lot of different books. So on leadership, you know, using this framework in leadership, or using this framework in personal leadership. So there's a lot we can do with these stories. But we only have this 1 hour. So I made a very, very small exercise that is sort of designed from his work. And what we're going to do is we're going to come up with an anecdote. We're going to make, we're going to discover a little story. And I would really love to invite you to use your intuition in this exercise. So again, it's not about finding the best story or finding the best memory. It's about what's coming up when I ask you the question in a minute. It's about what's coming up, and then exploring that, what's coming up, by the little design that I will provide you. So, the question is, where did you get this value? Who taught you this? Where did you discover it? Where have you experienced it? So where did this value come up or was important in your life, or you came to connect with it? See what comes up and take that precise moment. And that's the first step. And the first step is the I, and the I stands for image. So the first step of the anecdote you're going to tell us is you're going to talk about, you're going to take us back to that moment, describing it as an image. So I was there and this was happening, or this person said this to me, or well, whatever happened, you take us to that moment. The second is the E for effect. So what effect did this had on you? This happening in this moment. And the third is the M. What was the meaning of this moment and the effect? What is the meaning of the moment and the effect that it had on you? You can share straight away if you say, oh, I got it. And if you would like to discover it a bit or explore it, we can have a, you know, a minute or 10. You can do several if you like. But just take a minute to go back and to reimagine yourself at that place. See what comes up. Do you think you can work with this exercise? Yes? Okay. Let me know when you're ready to share.
Okay, Hester.
That's fast.
Yeah, no, because so many things have happened in my life that it's not very difficult.
Oh, great. Oh, that's good.
So, quite a long time ago now, so many, I'm taking you back to 30 years ago when I was, I've had the opportunity to explore very many places in my life. And one of the first places that I went to work was in Sri Lanka. And I got to know a lovely lady who was my Sinhalese teacher. So when I was learning Sinhala, and she was a tiny lady, smaller than me, but with an enormous personality. And we used to share food together, and she would cook the most delicious food. But at that time in Sri Lanka, there were lots going on. There was a civil war between the Sinhalese and Tamil groups in that country. And Visakha's eldest son went away. He joined the air forces. And then after a short time, she heard that they weren't certain whether he had been succumbed within the war or what. And now, all this time later, she still doesn't know what happened to her son. And we both were very much involved in empowerment, women's empowerment, and working with women to become more confident of themselves. And Visakha she established an organization called Mothers for Peace, and she also has been involved in the peace process in Sri Lanka, and that war went on for 25 years and is now over. But the repercussions of that situation are still ongoing, because there's still fear between the different ethnic groups and the cultural groups within Sri Lanka. And so she still does a lot of work with women about making them understand the alternative views. And I had the opportunity to visit again after all this time earlier this year, before the pandemic, and went and visited and went to a workshop with this group of women, and some are speaking Tamil, some are speaking Sinhala, and the action, you could feel in that room the depth of sharing and the understanding between each other. And that is how it was, through her, knowing her, that this whole importance of caring and connecting and developing a wider community of practice around bringing that feminine intuition into how we can make a new world, that one where people care and share and help each other.
Wow, so it was at the moment that you were there to share that moment with the other women, right? So what was the effect of that moment on you?
So the effect on me is the importance of coming together, how circles of women can be really empowering, and give you each other enormous amounts of confidence, and being able to speak out in the world.
Wow. Wow, what a story. So would you say that this whole journey of 30 years, this, you know, this woman that you got to meet, where you had this, I don't know, connection, or you stayed in contact, and then so this moment of being in that circle, was that, you think, where you got the insight of, I think this is what we need in a new normal?
Yes, I think, well, I suppose it's a bit of like a net of connectivity, and that it doesn't all happen at once. Things happen over a period of time, and you become I suppose the evidence for what's needed, as it were, if you're bringing your academic, it doesn't necessarily all happen all at once. The things begin to connect up. It's a bit like that, the lovely Rig Veda, where each person can be conceived as a crystal within a net, and that through that the light of the world can be seen.
Great. I love it. You know what I really love about, because you talked about in the beginning about that you feel it's important that you have this idea that a speaker embodies his or her own, you know, topic, let's say it like that, right? Or you say you want them to be connected to what they're talking about. That was what you described when you're in the audience position, right? So now you told me something about the change you want to see, and you told me this story. I I really experienced this embodiment, and there's this whole story in my head now of 30 years of your life. And it's weird how it works. So what happened is that in my head, I've seen this woman not knowing where her son is. I've envisioned where her son is. I don't know why it happens. That's what the mind does. We're going to make pictures, right? I have envisioned you two eating together, and then, in my opinion, and that's very judgmental, but you were sitting on the floor eating rice. I don't know. It's stupid, but this is how it works, right? So I have all these images. It's very warm there, and then you go back to this circle of women that have been experienced so much with this civil war for that many years. So I think there's a lot in their body. So it must be very, I don't know, powerful, and a lot of things going on there. So I've experienced all of that in just like 3 minutes maybe. And in these 3 minutes, I've kind of, I made this, it became a part of my body as well, because the story made me work to visualize, and then it gives me feelings. I have an idea of what I should feel like in that circle. It's just from what I can imagine. So, but this is all happening. So it's very activating to me as an audience member. Much more than facts, and much more than facts. And also, I understand better why this is important to you. It gave it some bedding, right? So let's say that you would start. Let's look at the introduction of a talk you might do in the future, maybe this week, maybe somewhere else. Let's say that you would start with this anecdote where you share about your friendship with this woman that you saw after 30 years and had the opportunity to be in this circle, and then explain the effect it had on you and what it meant to you. And then we go back to the first exercise where you wrote down what you see now. And then after that, what's your vision for the new normal? Then that would be a perfect introduction, a perfect little story to start off your talk.
Yeah, I can understand.
And there are a lot of ways to come up with stories. So this is just one way, right? But it will be helping the audience to experience you as somebody who's connected with their own message, with their own story. So let me share mine.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I told you about that everybody is worthy, right? To share something and to be of any benefit of others. So the funny thing is, or it's not specifically funny, but I have a brother and he has a muscle disease. It's a very rare one. No one, I think there are only 7 people who have this muscle disease. It's called, since you're in healthcare, it's called nemalinemyopathy. It's a mutation, and well, let's not go into the medical part, but but it's so the case is he's in a wheelchair. He has a breathing machine. He cannot breathe on himself, and because of his muscle disease, his mouth never grow in a curve, so it's always open like this. Like this. So when he speaks, like this. So here I am, being a public speaker, learning people how to how to speak, and I have this brother who is not really able to speak. I can understand him, and you know, people that know him can understand him. But so he was in hospital. Well, he's been a lot of times. So he was in hospital, and there was this little kid in the room with him. They were just with the two of them, and the kid was really sick. And at night, the kid woke up and started crying, right? So my brother couldn't really speak to this kid because she really might be scared or something. I don't know. It was dark and stuff like that. So he asked for the guitar. And then what he did in the middle of the night, he played guitar for her, and it made her settle down. So he found his way, you know, to be able to give, right? So and then what happened over the years is that I saw that there are so many people that came to me explaining me how the life of my brother kind of inspired them to look in a different way to things, or they were activated to do things for public entrance for disabled people, or whatever it was. So many different people that came to me with this sort of, oh, I want to tell you that I had this conversation with your brother and it really made me think, and so I think that's really where I became very conscious of the fact that it's not, you know, that we must be this, or be able to this, or do that, or whatever, but we all are able and worthy to share something and be be beneficial for someone else. So if I would ever do a talk, what I do, but my talk about public speaking could start with this anecdote about my brother. And then I would say that I see people working so hard on their presentation, getting all the info in, and that I would hope that they would change their intention to, well, this is a moment where I'm going to give and share, right? Yeah, so there we have it.
Yes.
Yes, it's so easy. Now let's look at your talk this week, because you say I'm under the impression that you say, well, I feel a bit more free here in this surrounding to use poetry and stuff like that. So would you like to look at a presentation for this week, or would you like to look at a presentation that you do in the academic world?
I think I'd like to look at something for this week, because this week gives me other opportunities that, yeah.
Okay, great. There, I see Weave is coming in. I don't know exactly. Maybe they come and have a look for this last 15 minutes. Let's go there. Let's go to this week. So, how are you doing up there? And can we co-create something?
Yeah, definitely. I'm sure we can.
Okay, let's do that. So
definitely, because so in terms of this little anecdote, I'll share how it all fits in. I think I can. So in terms of, one of the things that I have been seeing is the need for a different way of leading, and that one that brings in the whole of you. So for the whole of your body, so from that enables you to bring your heart and your soul into your work, because through that people will be able to connect and learn a different way of being. And I've been writing a book that has been a long time in coming. It's based on the stories of 20 women that I have known over the course of my career, and they have in some way touched me. Some of those women are people that I've known through my professional life, and others of those that I've known through my interest in other things, because I also love to dance and sing and paint. I'm a creative in addition to being this professional public health consultant. And so I have undertaken interviews with 20 women over the course of this past year. And so it's been a really interesting time, because because of being in the pandemic as well, there's been that opportunity to consider how things were before, how things are now, and what the future might look like too. And so that anecdote that I shared about my friend in Sri Lanka, she is one of the ladies that I've interviewed for the book as well.
Yes.
And one of the things that I hope to do in the future is to be able to bring each of those 20 women together through a platform like this, so that we can, that my people, my friends,
Wow.
I feel can all meet with each other and share with each other, and talk about the future and what it might be.
Oh, wow. What a good idea. So will your, so what?
In this workshop that I'm doing a panel, and so I have invited 5 of those women.
Oh, wow. I'm going to be there.
To be a part of that panel. And
yes,
what I've ended up coming up with through all my reading, because I am a bit of an avid reader, is the metaphor for what I'm trying to do is a flower, a blossom with 12 petals. And each of those petals has a C. So that each of those will, and so each of the people, the women who are going to share, one has, through that conversation I had with them, the commitment that she had for her academic life and where it came from shone through. So that will be the theme that she'll share in hers. Another of the women has been through such a lot of adversity, and what shines through from what she talks about is courage. And so each of the 5 women that will be sharing on the platform with me will be sharing one attribute of that I include within the book.
Wow, awesome. Well, then I think, and is this Sri Lanka? Is she there as well?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay. So, well, let me tell you something, because when you told me about this experience, right, of well, the story about meeting, getting to know her and then seeing her again after 30 years and being in a circle like that. So what is really important is that you don't forget to tell the effect that it had on you, because that's where the movement is. That's where we can feel it, right? So if you just tell that you were present in that circle and that it was special, then we think, okay, it was special. But when you tell what the effect was of that moment, or either way, in that moment or afterwards, if you talk about your own movement, about the your own movement, then well, that's such an important part of that anecdote. And I do really understand and believe that if you share this anecdote and then, you know, go into this play shop or plenary, what is it?
Plenary.
Right? Plenary. Yes. So, and then you have these, well, already a circle of women, right? I would straight away know in what kind of mood I should be present as an audience member, right? Because I know what the effect is, what the effect can be. So if I open myself, I might experience something similar or something else that's special, right? So I can imagine that actually that anecdote works really well. Or especially the effect, your personal effect of being in a circle of women, because that's what you're going to do.
Yeah.
How do you feel about it?
No, I've really enjoyed this because it's got me thinking in a totally different way, although it's very congruent with the way I've been working as well. So it's a bit of an affirmation too.
Yes, I think so. Yeah, it feels like that. That's good. Well, I think yes, I'm going to be there. I know for sure. Yes. Yes, I want to see that. No, but really, really because of this anecdote. And then, you know, hearing about these women in the book.
And then I'm also going to be doing a play shop as well, and sharing some of the ways that I use creativity within my leadership work as well. So that's the other thing that I'm going to be doing.
Great. So are there any questions that
you know, I would love to be able to have more time with you at some stage, Hester, because I've really enjoyed this. I sometimes lack confidence, but I'm also able to speak out, especially when a situation where I feel this is really important. And so I will just a short thing that happened to me one time when I was doing my because I love dance and I do movement medicine, and at the end of one session we each had to speak out and say something and make an affirmation of what we would do in change in our lives. And I said that I shared that I would speak out and not be afraid to say what needed to be said. And then it was about a month later, I got myself into such a situation. I had to speak, I was asked to speak on BBC Radio 4 about smoking. And I was asked a question at the end of that conversation by the interviewer, and said something that a whole series of events unfolded from that, because I spoke out and said how important it was for people to be able to remain true to themselves and being able to stop smoking, and that the impact of the tobacco companies on that was really detrimental. And that it happened also, I knew as well that the local authority invested in tobacco for their pension program, and I spoke out about it, and I said it was not suitable for a public health organization to be undertaking such something like that. And it got me into so much hot trouble, but
that's what you asked for in a way, right? Because
yes.
You want, yes. That's great.
And it turned my life upside down. It changed everything. I left that job. I started doing interim work. So many things in my life just changed as a result of that.
From speaking out. Wow. Good. I got this message that we have to close this session because they have to make room for the next one. So I'm sorry, I would love to have worked another hour, but time's up.
Yeah, indeed. Lovely. Thank you.
We will find each other.
Indeed, we will.
Okay.
Definitely. Right.
Thank you so much.